In this half of the module, we'll look at how to prepare your client for an interview. Preparing a client for an interview is just as important as preparing the candidate. Not all clients are professional interviewers. New managers may have less experience while older managers might be out of practice. Thorough preparation will put your client at ease, help you build a stronger relationship and encourage a more successful meeting. At the end of the interview, both parties have to decide whether they want to move forward. Use this opportunity to pre-close the client to keep the process running smoothly. Normally, I set aside up to an hour to brief clients for permanent roles. Ideally, you want to do this face-to-face. Encourage a more open and honest conversation. Freelance and temp roles can be assessed on a case-by-case basis, and it's quite acceptable to do this on the phone. Start by confirming the time, the date and the location of the interview and exchange contact telephone numbers in case of an emergency. Now remind the client why the candidate is excited about the opportunity. Then review the job specification you took in Module 2. Take note of any changes in the spec. You will need to brief your candidate on them before the interview. Now review the candidate's background, experience, qualifications, industry knowledge, communication skills and other skill sets that meet the client's requirements. Build the client's enthusiasm by describing how the candidate will help the company achieve its goals. I would say, John, you mentioned that one of your key requirements is for the candidate to open new markets for your range of organic products, especially growing European markets. Sarah feels particularly strongly about the benefits of organic products and already has joined a number of organisations in Europe, which means she already has a strong network of contacts that she can speak to straight away. Share the candidate's positive and negative attributes. Turn their negatives into positives by telling the client that the candidate will develop their skills in this new role. Now, ask the client if they have any questions they would like to ask before you begin. Address any concerns that the client may have. If the candidate raised concerns to you when you prepared them for the interview, tell the client what they are and coach them on how to address these issues in the interview. For example, if the candidate does not like cold calling, tell the client to talk to them about existing accounts first and then mention cold calling for new clients after. Now, review the format of the interview. Ask for the names and contact details for everybody involved in the process. You will need to prepare each person involved in the process thoroughly and understand their expectations. Remember to tell the candidate who they'll meet and any other information the client gives you. Now ask the client what type of questions they're going to ask. Remind the client that they should ask a maximum of 4 to 5 behavioural-based questions. For example, have you ever been involved in a conflict in the workplace? How did you handle this and what was the outcome? If the client asks too many behavioural questions, they can exhaust the candidate. Now ask the client how they're going to sell the company's USPs to the candidate. If the client doesn't sell the company to you well, you need to help them prepare their pitch for the interview. If your client hasn't conducted many interviews, help them develop questions to ask the candidate. Ask how long the interview will take. Now ask how many candidates they're interviewing for the role. Then ask the client how they're going to close the interview. If they have a plan on conducting another interview, you would need to tell the candidate. Finally, ask the client when they'll make an offer. Now, tell the client that you will take care of negotiating the package for them. Remind them that you are in the best position to oversee negotiations. You know what they are willing to pay and what the candidate will accept. Now remind the client of the candidate's current package, then close on what they will offer. If your client cannot meet your candidate's expectations, understand why. Consider cancelling the interview until they have a better idea of the package they can offer. Remind the client that the candidate might receive a counter-offer from their current employer. Now it's time to start wrapping up the conversation. Ask the client what the next 18 months to 2 years look like at the company if they were to be successful. Use this information to help close the candidate. If you're preparing the client for the final interview, close them on a potential start date. Finally, arrange the debrief call with the client. Make sure it's no longer than 1 hour after the interview ends. Tell them that by the time you will have spoken to the candidate, you can relay any relevant feedback to keep the process running very smoothly. My top tips to take away from this module are: number 1, always attempt to brief your candidates face to face. Number 2, encourage your candidates to show their personality while remaining professional. Their beliefs, drivers and motivations will impress the client much more than reading a CV. Number 3, use the notepad technique. It gives your candidates confidence while letting the client know they've come really prepared. Number 4, prepare every candidate to the same extent. Senior candidates aren't always good at interviews. They just might be out of practice. Number 5, tell your candidate to move their chair a little closer to the client when they sit down, so your client knows they're confident and interested. Number 6, encourage your candidate to use future tense. It shows confidence they'll be getting the job. Number 7, the candidate should always ensure that they've identified attributes that they believe set them apart from their peers. 8, reread the client's key requirements. Use them to build their enthusiasm for meeting the candidate. 9, use this opportunity to pre-close the client to keep the process running smoothly. 10, don't be afraid to cancel the interview if the client can't meet the candidate's package expectations.